But should we take a look at what's been going on in the world of politics this week? Shall we? Let's speak to Noah Khogali. He's political commentator with Young Voices UK, and he joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Noah.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Gosh, we've had so many leadership debates this week. It feels like the BBC one. When was that? Was that Sunday night? Feels like
they've all kind of merged into one.
I was going to say, yeah, it really does. But let's look at that contest, shall we? And we'll actually talk with the BBC's debate with Sophie Rayworth. And off the back of that, Rishi was seen as the most confident. Right, he was more combative off the back of it, and so he had this win in that respect. Yet on the other side, he was at one point accused of mansplaining, constantly interrupting Noah. What was going on there? And that didn't go down too well.
I know, quite interestingly, you're talking about the whole contest taking a long time, but it feels like the winner is, almost decided already. Exactly. And these are kind of the death throes of a campaign. We've got to hope that it kind of stays alive and we have a little bit more of a contest, but it does, especially with Wallace and Tugendhat backing Truss now, it does feel like a little bit of a foregone conclusion. And I think Rishi is showing that with his, policy flip-flopping and the aggression in that debate, that they're really trying radical things to, cling on by the fingernails here.
Yeah, and this is it. And perhaps this is maybe why Rishi went out on the attack, if I can put it that way, when it came to Liz Truss. And actually, I felt it did, some of his interrupting, how fierce he was, it did throw Liz, on a couple of occasions. However, she did try to make sure she gave her policy, her stance on things. But nonetheless, I felt Rishi was a stronger performer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he won because of that. As I said, there were accusations of mansplaining, and he was pulled up over the number of times he interrupted.
It says a lot about our politics at the moment, I think, that for at least the early parts of this contest, we were putting a lot of more focus than on policy on how they were, presenting on stage. And that's probably something that in the last 5-10 years has had a lot more focus than it ever did before. And this Liz Truss resurgence, when she's not the best performer, but is talking more about policy and uniting behind the scenes, might be something of a correction that we're seeing, hopefully, in British politics. You know what I mean? It's hopefully means we're moving back towards talking about policy and uniting the country and moving forward, rather than these more presidential prime ministers.
We're going to talk policy in a moment. We're going to go back to a comment you just made on Tom Tugendhat coming out and backing Liz Truss, and he did this in the Times today, wrote this in the Times, and it was a very scathing, not so much an attack, but the reasons why he said he's supporting Liz Truss essentially was saying the reasons why Rishi would not be the right person to be Tory leader and Prime Minister.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people have kind of assumed that Rishi Sunak is getting these Tory Reform Group, One Nation Conservative votes. But what I think the really, really important bit about this intervention is, that may actually be more important than Wallace, is it shows that Liz Truss is somehow behind the scenes bringing together both the ERG and the TRG, so both wings of the party. And I don't know what she's saying to them in private that's convincing them of that, but that's not something that Rishi has been able to do. Lots of people pointed to Rishi getting lots of votes when it came to the MP's ballot. But I do think that actually might be starting to shift now, because you've got to assume that Tom Tugendhat, for example, switching to Truss or coming out for Truss is going to pull some people with him. And that idea of party unity might now be found in Liz Truss rather than Rishi Sunak, like everyone was assuming it would be.
Yeah, let's take a look at one of those policies that Liz Truss is actually already facing attack from unions who are threatening to potentially to hold a strike, whether it will be a general strike or not, or deemed a general strike or not. But if she becomes Prime Minister, this is the leader of the RMT has said that he will call a strike because of one of her policies, trying to prevent people striking in future.
Yeah, it's quite obvious, I think, who they think is going to win. But it's also, I don't think, going to help in the public perception of the way that these unions are behaving, that now they just seem to be striking to try and convince Tory members maybe not to vote for Truss, which seems very odd. And there's a broader tactical game here. But I think, to be honest, whoever ends up in Downing Street is going to bring in legislation limiting the power of the unions and their ability to strike in key national infrastructure. because of the massive impact it's having on normal people and their everyday lives. Whoever ends up as Downing Street is going to realise that that's a hugely important issue, that in order to, you know, make the public's lives even slightly more comfortable in a very uncomfortable time, that is a really, really important action to take.
Oh, I had one more question to ask about civil servants being told that they can't be racist. And can I have one more minute, guys? Jose, come on. Yay, all right, thank you. You see what I got to do here to get like more time with you, Noah? Yes, here we go. This is in Telegraph, of course. The Telegraph saying civil service told Britain is racist in a training video. Let me just say, that wasn't what the training video said, but hey, go ahead. I'll let you explain, Noah.
Yeah, so it's a training video actually from 2019, which is quite important. They've been using this for a long time, before the department even changed its name. And it essentially boils down to trying to jump on the bandwagon of the issues that were happening then, and ideas of white privilege and conversations that you should or should not be having in the workplace and how to behave. I think the Telegraph have led with this idea of you're not supposed to challenge ethnic minorities at all. But I think in the context of the video, it's don't challenge them on their experience of racism, which is a very, very, very different thing. And I think what is actually going on here is this is the Telegraph trying to, you know, position themselves at the centre of public debate at a time when the idea of culture wars are incredibly important, and it's trying to, you know, make sure that they're not seeing something that's, you know, frivolous and unimportant.
Noah, I managed to get this in. Noah Khogali from Young Voices UK. Always a pleasure talking to you.